All right, good day everyone. Good day and welcome to this very special presentation by Naigon's Electronic Creations. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Scott. I'm the owner and lead developer here at Naigon's Electronic Creations. And for those of you who do know me, you probably don't recognize me with my new belt buckle. Haha. With that said, I'm very pleased to get going today on something that really excites me. And this is a little different than the normal presentation videos I do, where I'm presenting a specific release for a product or maybe one or two products, and then go about the features on those release. But this is going to be actually about a new technology, something I'm bringing to all my boards and expanding on it. And I want to talk about that and what it means going forward. So without further ado, let's talk about RealSwing, the new motion tracking system I'm bringing to Naigon's Electronic Creations products. So today we're going to talk about what RealSwing is specifically, go over like some high-level details of what it is. Then we're going to talk about why it's potentially better than current motion tracking systems that are on the market. Then we're going to talk about how it sounds. Actually, I'm going to, instead of talking about it, I'll just show the demo because that's definitely the best way to do that. And then finally, we'll talk about how it's going to be released, on which platforms, etc., and the timing. So let's get right on in talking about what RealSwing actually is. So I want to start with this analogy, the ruler. You know, it's a very simple yet elegant device. It's able to measure many different things of many different sizes. It's a very intuitive device. You know, you just stick it next to something and you can just look at the lines and see what the measurement is. So it's elegant, it's simple, it works really well. However, when there's something that's very small or you need to get a very, very precise measurement, this tool just doesn't hold up. And that's where a precision measurement tool, such as these bone calipers, come in. And these are able to measure something super accurately to very precise measurements. Well, the ruler is like the current, up until now, swings on my boards, and the precision measurer is exactly like RealSwing. Because RealSwing is precision tracking and measurement of motion in real time. And so the idea of this is to be able to track and play correct sounds regardless of the speed and how long it's going, so that the motion will always match, or the sound will match the motion. The other neat thing about RealSwing is it's an augmentation of my current motion tracking. This is basically like Motion Sense V3, you can think of it. I just took what was good about my previous systems and made it better. And same with the current fonts. I just took those same current fonts, just added one thing, and then that is what makes up this entirely new system. So in that way, it's just expanding upon an already good idea. I didn't need to start from the ground up. It still has this concept of playing the appropriate bank. Most of you know that even since the Big Daddy Igniter days, my very original board, I had this concept of playing slash sounds or swing sounds. So slash was if the motion was very, very fast. And then if the velocity was less than that, it would play a swing. Well, now with the RealSwing, there's still the slash, and slash are optional. If you don't have any slash files, it will just always play swings, and that's still true. There's the swing files, and now there's the new sound files, the new bank of sounds I'm calling the low swing files, which are going to be the long, drawn-out swings used for the very slow and precise movements. And of course, not only is the motion tracked, as I mentioned, but you're also going to have sound adjustment and pitch tracking on the fly, so that in real time, you're always going to get the most appropriate sound for the motion that's occurring. So I just mentioned that there's this new bank of swings called low swings. Well, what are those? Basically, you can think of low swings as elongated swing files. They're just the same sort of swing files as the normal swings, but they're stretched out to be very long, like 3x or so the size. And these swings, they're generated normally, how I've been doing it for all my fonts is I generated it directly from the existing swing sounds for that font. And so it requires a manual generation, but it is from an existing source, so it doesn't require like creating any new type of sound or any really extensive thing. It's more of a tedious operation than a difficult operation. And what's even better is because of that, I do believe generation is possible, similar to what I do with the dual out hums, where I actually can take a hum and then I mix it in delayed and do the, a couple other automatic things. I believe the same sort of automation is going to be possible here. And finally, I just wanted to say that the low swing sounds, just like the slash sounds, they're honestly not necessary. If you don't have these sounds, the font will work. You just won't get the optimal experience, because if you're doing a really long, drawn out swing, the sound will stop because there won't be a long enough file to play. But you'll still actually get the dynamic magnitude adjustment of volumes in the pitch. So you'll still get a better experience than you did with my previous boards without changing a single thing in the font. All right, so now we talked a little bit about what RealSwing is. So let's compare it maybe and see, why did I create this and what makes it different than anything. So I wanted to start right out by saying RealSwing is not equal to smoothswing. Now, for those of you who don't know, smoothswing is an algorithm that was created by Theaxter. He's over on the TRA forums. Hats off to him. He created something really awesome and unique for the community. And this algorithm is all about tracking and making the motions accurate for the entire motion. So it has the same goals as RealSwing, but these algorithms are not the same. In fact, I never actually looked at the code for smoothswing. I wanted to make my own thing which I thought was superior and which I thought would suit my boards the best. So these are not the same algorithms. While they have similarities, they are different things. And we are going to start diving into some of those differences right now. For instance, RealSwing, the first characteristic of it is that all the sounds for the swing motions, they're all based on the same swing sounds. So that they're all, the slash, the swing, and the low swing, they're all generated from that initial swing sound, either like pitched up and shrunk or just extended out. And this is different than smooth swing, because in smooth swing, what it is that the swing sounds are actually hum sounds. So they have a different tonality. They're actually generated from the hums. It's a different sound. Another thing about RealSwing specifically is that there's an arbitrary number of sounds for the low swing specifically. Well, for all swings, but low swing is the most important. Because it doesn't matter how many low swings you have. You can actually have 0, as I said, and then you won't get the ideal experience, but the algorithm works fine. Then if you have 1, 2, 3, etc., all the way up to 99, the algorithm just takes into account how many you has and uses all the sounds available. So the algorithm doesn't care the number of sounds. This is different than smooth swing. Smooth swing is very specific in that it requires a high and a low pair, and those need to be matched up for the algorithm to work correctly with the swings. So it has a more stringent requirement on what the sound files are like. Now, RealSwing also has a very wide adjustment of volume. So you can, and this is configurable, so for people that don't like this feature, they can turn it down or turn it, so that it doesn't do this. But the algorithm itself allows for, if you do a long, slow sweeping motion, it can actually mix in the volume way quieter. So that way, if you're doing little moments, you get almost like an effect of what used to be like other boards have, like a pitch shift. If you move the angle, you kind of get that effect if you're moving the board just very slowly. But then when you stop moving, you're back to the original hum sound. And now smooth swing, on the other hand, all the swings are pretty much the same volume. Like no matter how hard you move it or fast, the velocity, pretty much the volume of those swings are mixed in at the same volume. Another thing about RealSwing, which I'm really happy with, is that for those of you that do like the sound of the smooth swing fonts, or have some that you like, they will work right away on my board. All you got to do is rename the low and high pairs, just rename them to LSwing 01, 02, etc., and then put them in, and then the font will work. So the algorithm is generic enough that it can use something that wasn't necessarily made for it. Now understand, if you do this, you lose number 1 up there. Your swings aren't all generated from the same source. And we'll talk about what that means later, but just understand that if you do this, you're negating number 1. Smooth swing, though, will not be able to use RealSwing sounds, because there's no pairing, there's no concept of that pitch pairing with the RealSwing sound, so therefore the smooth swing won't be able to use those. And finally, and I think this is the most important one, is that with RealSwing, all the sounds, including the low pitches, have this continual variation in pitch for all the swings. But smooth swing, it basically has a high and low pitch. So there's one pitch that's high and one that's low, and it jumps basically between those two. And now we're going to actually expand on what that means, because there's a lot of implications of that. And to do that, let's talk a little bit about what swings actually are. So swings are basically just a Doppler effect. And here I have a definition of the Doppler effect. This is from Physics Classroom, I think, physicsclassroom.com. So this, I'll read it really quickly. The Doppler effect can be described as the effect produced by a moving source of waves in which there's an apparent upward shift in the frequency for observers towards whom the source is approaching, and there's an apparent downward shift in pitch towards whom the source is moving away. That's a lot of verbiage. What the heck does that mean? Well, it basically means this, that swings, if we consider our swings are our Doppler, they have a continual pitch shift. So it's like coming up as it's getting closer and going down as it's going away, which for us actually implies that if your swing is getting faster, you're getting a higher pitch. And if it's getting slower, you're getting a lower pitch. So the takeaway is, depending on the velocity of the movement, you're getting this continual motion increasing or decreasing. So here's a graph showing this continual motion. And this would be representing a swing that kind of has a high pitch, goes a little low, and then comes back high. For instance, it might sound something like this. Excuse my crazy voice, but that's basically the kind of tonality you'd get with this kind of Doppler effect. Well, what about smooth swing? Well, smooth swing, instead of having this continual sound, it will have a high and a low pair. And then it will use volume fading to fade between those two pairs. So then what ends up happening is you get this discrete shift between two pitches instead of one continual up and down. And by the way, accent swings, of course, is a mitigation to this, which is, I think, why they're becoming popular. But it's only obviously a partial mitigation, because whenever that hum sound, which is the long swing, is playing, it's going to have that discrete sounding problem. So here is a graph, again, showing the same swing before that goes from high to low to high. So that's the pitch over time. But now I've overlaid as well what would happen if you tried to represent that with a smooth swing style where you had discrete high, low, and high, and then there's just a volume fade. Well, what's going to happen is, instead of going like, you're going to go, and so it's going to be discrete. Again, excuse my crazy voice for that. But that's going to be the kind of effect that you're going to get. Well, what does that lead to? To me, the very first time I heard this algorithm in person from Theaxter, way before it was released, I heard those distinct tones, and I thought, boy, those don't sound that great. And now on the forums, I guess people have been calling this sing-song. Basically, it's representative of like a singer going like, back and forth between different tones. And to me, that's not what the lightsaber should sound like. Again, the lightsaber's the Doppler, should be very continuous, very smooth as the motion occurs. And then the other problem I feel that it has when I heard it is because the low swing sounds are generated from hums. You basically have your hum playing, and then you're mixing in the swing, which is also hum. There's a lot of like frequency cancellation and jumbling that happens there with the frequencies, such that you end up getting what I call like the buzzing fly effect, where it ends up just sounding like this fly going bzzz, jumping around when the swings are happening. And that to me also isn't very representative of a lightsaber sound. So how does RealSwing deal with these? Well, again, all the swing sounds, including the low ones, they actually have that continual pitch, like changing. And so they sound very smooth and dynamic. And so you don't have to, you won't have this effect where some of the swings have some buzzing and that you won't have tonality jumps. And then all the swing sounds are based on the swings. And this is another problem that's addressed, because that means all the swings will match in timbre. You won't have a situation where an accent swing doesn't match the actual like smooth swing because it's generated off of a hum. So because of this, all the swings matching in timbre, you have a very consistent and a very buttery experience of the sounds. Now, I just talked about all the benefits of RealSwing, and there's a lot. But I always like to be honest and truthful. God willing, I want to be as truthful as I can with you guys. So let's see if there's any elephants in the room we need to address, because, in life, everything's a trade-off. So what are some of the areas for improvement for RealSwing, for instance? Well, first of all of my boards up until this point only support 2 channels of audio. And this is actually just a consequence of the CPU itself. The CPU can't do more than two in a row, like more than two channels mixing at the same time. And this isn't unfortunate because it didn't matter as much for just doing normal swings, but once you bring in these continuous swings, if you're doing like continuous to fast to continuous, you do start to hear, if you listen very closely, sometimes you can hear a jump where one swing stops and another starts. And it's unfortunate, but this really isn't a problem with the algorithm. It's really a problem with the hardware it's being delivered on. And in the future, when I have a board that supports, more than two channels, it'll be no problem. Just that the first swing will just die off and the second one will, mix in. So they'll overlap and sound really good. Then the second issue is what I call whirlwind. And I also don't think this is a big problem. Basically, if you do this effect where you stick your arm way out and do a really long swing that's, more than 2 seconds long, eventually the sound is going to stop playing because it's really hard to make a RealSwing font where the swing is longer than about like 2 to 3 seconds because of your source material is only like, 700 milliseconds. So because of that, basically like that effect is going to be a little weird. The sound just stops playing. Again, I don't think that's a big deal. I don't know many people when they're using a Sabre do like this for more than 2 seconds. So I believe that this is pretty much a non-issue. And I optimize my algorithm for the general case, which is, swings are maybe at most like a second or so, right? So I believe this is a non-issue. And finally, which is a little bit unfortunate, but you have to generate those low swings to get the ultimate experience, and that's a manual process right now. I did mention I do want to make this automated in the future, but for now it's manual. And for any font makers, please contact me. I have the instructions how to do it, and moreover, I'll be willing to help convert any sound fonts and or host the converted low swing files for any fonts for my board. So with all that said, it looks like we don't really have an elephant in the room. We just have a small house hippo that you just want to, step over. Just be careful with the house hippo. All right, with all that said, let's talk about how it sounds. And again, I'm not going to talk. Let's just play the demo. I think you guys are going to love this demo and love how awesome this experience sounds.
Standard issue.
All right, that demo is so great. I'm really happy with the way RealSwing turned out, and I can't wait for you guys to get it, and I hope you can either. And speaking of that, let's talk about when and how you can get this. RealSwing is coming to Spark Colors for 3. In fact, it's there right now. So if you go to my site right now, all the default files are uploaded for the R3 Spark Color 3 release, which includes the RealSwing on it. And of course, because they're up there and because of Naigon Electronics Creations' commitment to upgrades, it's a free upgrade for Spark Color 3 users. So regardless if you have Spark Color 3, Spark Color 3 R2, it's already a free upgrade. You just download the files, put it on your board, and you'll have RealSwing. Similar for Spark Color 3. It's available now too. The files are already up there. So any board you buy will have it, and you can, if you have a board, you can download the files, put it on your board, and you'll get it. So that is good to know. One thing I want to say is I just sent over these files to the fulfillment center, so they're going to be loading the SD card. So if you make any purchases in the next couple days, expect maybe a couple extra days processing time for those orders. Normally they ship out like next day. It might be like 2 days because they've got to get those cards ready. Also, you know, here at Naigon's Electronic Creations, we really appreciate that if you're buying my product, if you're buying our stuff, you are giving us the hard-earned money that you made, and we respect that. So we want to bring these features at reasonable values. And so because of that, there's going to be no change in price to the Spark Color 3. Still $100 for this great experience now with RealSwing. And Spark 3 is still $70, so no change in price there as well. So you're getting a board with RealSwing, you know, with pixel support, the $70, and this board is professionally designed. It's going to be easy to install and configure. You're not going to have any worry about, you know, third party that created the board. Like here at Naigon's Electronic Creations, we care about quality and ease of installation, and it shows in our products. And speaking of that, and one of the things we care about is the ease of configuration. And so the NEC Editor, the version 1.0.6, is now available on my site, and it supports the R3 releases for Spark Color 3 and Spark 3. And this includes basically support for the 4 new required threshold settings. So there's the L swing or low swing threshold. This is about like defining how slow it is before it counts as the long continuous movement. There's a swing threshold. This defines, this is actually an existing parameter, but before it defined just when you should play a swing, now it really defines what's the difference between something that's just the long continuous motion versus something that's going to be an actual, you want to play like a fast sound. So it's about bucketing the sounds. Slash threshold's also about bucketing, but it's bucketing between something that's a normal swing and something that's the very hard swing. Again, if you have no slash files in the font, it will just play all swings all the time, so it's not a problem. And finally, this is a very important parameter for those of you using this feature. This is called the swing max parameter. Now, what this is about is that feature that, you know, if you go very slowly, you can have the sound mix in very quietly. But during beta testing of this, I found that some people, especially those that were used to the smoothswing and the open source stuff, they like this value to be very low, like 0 to 30, and that will make it so most of the swings are the same volume. Personally, I like it higher, like 120 to 150, and that's what the video I shot was at. It's somewhere in there. I forget if it was 120 or 150. Sorry about that, but and that will have the more variance. When you go slow, it's quieter. And so this is the one parameter you are going to need to configure to taste, because it's been very varied from everyone that's tested it, so I can't, I'm not going to be able to guess what you want. Finally, I probably should have recopied the elephant guy again here, because there is an elephant in the room, again, about Igniter 3. You saw, I just mentioned Spark and Spark Color, but what about Igniter? Well, Igniter is a bit like this kitty here. He's really, really, really wants to get in that box, but there's just no way to fit. Just can't fit at all, right? And that's exactly what happened with Igniter 3. When I started porting the code into Igniter 3 for the RealSwing, I literally got down to 10 bytes of memory, and when you started running the code, it just crashed like crazy. There were still more things to add. So yeah, I ran out of space. So there's no more space. I can't add this feature. Because of that, I am actually temporarily going to just pull Igniter 3 as a product from my store. Now, for anyone that really wants the features of Igniter 3, and you're like, oh, I don't care about RealSwing, I want the FX or the Saber Cinema or whatever specific feature you want, I'm fine to sell you this Igniter 3. If you come to me and you say I want to buy it, that's fine. But when I just put it up on my website, like anybody, Joe, will buy it, they won't know this video maybe, and then they'll be upset that they don't get the newest feature. I want to avoid that. So that's why I'm going to pull it from my site. But never fear, because Igniter is it got my big start with the original Igniter. I'm very committed to igniter, so it's just temporary because a all new board will be coming soon, and I have an all new CPU which I've been experimenting with, which has way more space, so I can add all the features I want, which is really great because it's really annoying to every release try to do crazy things to get space back, and now I won't have to worry about that. And finally, I also want to say, but then existing users might be like, well, if you're going to a new board, we missed the R3 release compared to your Spark users. But I'll figure something out in the future to help you guys out. And currently, if you really want RealSwing, but you have an igniter, actually Igniter 3 can become a Spark Color 3 by just putting in the Spark Color 3 files. So for those of you that are sitting on an Igniter 3 and you're like, I really want RealSwing, you can just stick in the Spark Color 3 card and it becomes Spark Color 3 and you can use RealSwing. And then, if at one time you want to use some specific feature of Igniter, you can put back the other card, it's totally fine. So at least you guys have some mitigations for this. And that is my presentation about RealSwing. So I talked about what it is, how it's an algorithm to track continually with the volume and pitch and make perfect sounding sounds regardless of what motion you're doing so that it matches completely. I talked about how it's better than the current motion tracking solutions, how it actually, everything is a swing, timbers match. I talked about how you'll get the continuous pitch shifting. You won't have any sing-song. It won't be buzzing because you don't have two hums mixing together. I showed the demo. I didn't even bother talking. I just showed the demo of how it worked. I think that came across really well. And then I told you about how it's here today for Spark Color 3 and Spark 3. So you can, upgrade. Anyone that has a Spark 3 and Spark Color 3 can get the new release. And anyone that purchases the board, of course, will get the new features as well. So with that, I want to end again by reiterating this point that RealSwing is not equal to smoothswing. Like, I didn't just go out and hey, there's some algorithm and just copy it and put it in my code. No, I wanted to take what's already existing that's unique and great about my product and just expand upon it and make it even better. And I think I've shown today that I've done that I've come up with something unique for the hobby, something that's different and accomplishes the goals of what users want. But I hope also that you find that, in fact, it's better because I put so much love into this, so much care to make it sound exactly what I think is right in the physics terms of a lightsaber, that I hope you'll find it's actually a little better than the current offering. Not to mock anything about anyone's other thing, but I just really love what I brought, and I'm glad that everyone sees the passion I put into my products. So that is all I have for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining me in this. I'm very happy with all the support I've gotten over the years. It's been a crazy ride all these years, starting with that one big old board, and I've gone through so many different things, and I appreciate everyone that's helped me along the way. Thank you again. Godspeed to everyone, and I'll be in communication on the forums and Facebook. Have a good day.